Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of Birds and Boots with the Charlotte Eagles. And today I'm so happy to be joined by our new Executive Director, Cliff Wright. Cliff, welcome. How are you?
Woo, good man. I'm good.
Um, I'm great. Very, very happy to have you on. We felt, again, that it was only right to have you on today, being that you're the new Executive Director. How does that title feel to you when you read it or you see it on words?
Gosh, I mean, it sounds fun. Eagles is such a storied organization and has sent out so many amazing people, which really is what I feel like Eagles does, even more than soccer, is builds people. And you think about the other ministries and outreaches around the world that have been started through Eagles. I mean, it's really a launch pad, and so to get to have any role in that at all, regardless of title, is really awesome.
What was the job interview process like for you? I know that at least right now, for the past few months, it's been pretty weird being virtual and being at home, but how did you find this job and how do you feel like you suit the necessary expectations?
Well, uh, the I wasn't I I've been doing ministry for 15 years,
Hmm.
and a couple years volunteer before that, um, and was not looking for another job, but a friend of mine passed this executive director thing on, and I got it via text. And so like I'm clicking on the PDF and scrolling through it. I scroll to the bottom, like, scroll back to the top, scroll through like 5 times, and thought like, man, this is a really big job. There's no way. Um, but through just a bunch of conversations with folks in the Eagles, I was really encouraged that maybe this would be something that I could do. And you know, I just personally, I'm not looking for a job. I want a life and a calling, and from start to finish. I mean, from that first PDF that I read, this has smelled like, tasted like, sounded like, felt like a calling, like from God. Um, and yeah, so I'd say, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but Eagles has a parent organization called MAI. And the CEO of MAI is an amazing man named David. And he uh, was kind of my main point of contact through that. And just to see how much the parent organization believes in the Eagles and really kind of exists to serve, I just thought, and it's a phenomenal environment to step into. So.
That's an amazing story. I love that. The PDF scrolling, it was perfect. So 10 out of 10 for that one. But I know you mentioned Young Life and being in ministry for 15, 16 years. In so many words, what was that like? I mean, I can't imagine the experiences that you had and how fulfilling that must have been after you even had, just said that you weren't looking for a job, you're looking for a life and a passion, which I'm sure you had.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this is what you're asking for, but I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina, and had phenomenal parents. I'm adopted, and my dad has been involved with a lot of adoptions in the state of North Carolina. Um, uh, my parents were coming to know Jesus at the time of that process, and so I was raised in a family that valued the church and valued growing up in faith, and so I grew up around that, like a lot of kids that grow up in a faith environment. Like, you like it, it's kind of your identity, but I always say that it was probably more of a fashion statement for me than a mission statement. Um, and in high school, I started to drift away from, wanting to go to church. I had a lot of friends at school. I mean, not a lot of friends. I wasn't super popular, but my friends at school were not really Christian, and seemed to be having a lot more fun than I was. And that was pretty attractive to me, for the wrong reasons, obviously. And so I sort of started to go in a different path. And it was around the time that I really was going to need to start getting serious about not being Christian or being Christian that this 40-something-year-old man walked up to me before school one day and stuck out his hand and said, "You're Cliff, right?" And I said, "I am Cliff Wright." And that's a joke.
I just got it. It took me a second. That was good.
It's okay. Um, no, but and he said, "I've been to your soccer games. You're really good." And I always thought I was pretty good, but you know, to have somebody, say like, "I've been coming to your games," and he knew me, and in that conversation, like I really sensed that he liked me. And I came to find out later that he was a YoungLife leader. And he walked me to class that day when the bell rang. And a few days later, he was waiting in the parking lot for just any kids that wanted to talk, and saw me, and he walked into my car. And he walked into our student section. He kept walking into our stadium to watch me play. And later that year, he invited me to a Young Life camp in Colorado. And at the end of that week, he just kind of walked me into a relationship with Jesus for the first time. And it was in that conversation that I kind of, all the pieces that I had in my life from my parents and my church and everything clicked for me in that moment. And 15 seconds later, I asked him how I could have this job, essentially. And so since I was 17, I've wanted to be in ministry. I wanted to be, doing what I thought ministry, I was like Young Life, and so Young Life is something that I did in college while I played soccer in college. My grades suffered mightily, but it was fine. I graduated in 4 years, and played a lot of soccer, hung out with kids a lot, and I came on staff with Young Life directly out of college. Ironically, I had the choice of going on staff with Young Life or trying out for this Christian soccer team that I'd heard about in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was really something I was battling with
Okay.
because I had this tryout lined up and with this team called the Eagles, and was really wrestling with that and decided to go Young Life. And it has honestly been one of the great what ifs of my life. Not that I would have been a significant player on those Eagles teams, but just always wondered, what if. And
Mm-hmm.
so was on staff with Young Life in Roanoke, Virginia, Fredericksburg, Virginia, and then really felt a calling back to North Carolina, and God opened up the chance to do that in Charlotte. But I think that God has been expanding my mind for the kingdom, that it's bigger than an organization. I mean, these are things but
Mm-hmm.
they know them here, but not here. And the Lord's just been doing work in me over the last 2 years to get me to the point where when I would see an opportunity like this, I wouldn't just dismiss it, but that I would really listen. And man, I feel so blessed to be getting to step into this role now.
That is, I think, one of the coolest stories, and it definitely shows in a way that you were wrestling with that decision about going to Young Life or playing for the Eagles, and now things have come full circle essentially. Have you thought about that in a way? I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah, I thought. Yeah, yeah. It's just like God is really sweet, Donnie. Like God is he's sweet to us,
You're right.
And this isn't like obviously, or I hope sort of that this isn't like the final conclusion to my story in life. Like there's going to be more stuff. There's going to be more things in our stories that don't make sense when we're going through them, or choices that we have to make where it's like you're having to say no to a good thing in order to say yes to another good thing. And that if you just would listen to Jesus as he lives in us, like he will, like he guides us in paths of righteousness, like for his name's sake. Like our stories, he's the shepherd, we're the sheep, we're following him. And everywhere that he leads us, like Psalm 23 says, it's like, it's for him, like it's about him. Like we think we're the main characters of our stories, right? Like these are our cameras. Life is a story about me. But like that's like Donald Miller said, like that's the greatest lie I've ever had to overcome, is that life is a story about me. It's just so cool for each one of us to step back and like zoom out and see like there's been this hand on my life for every step and every decision, like, and it's led me to places that I wouldn't have wanted to go on my own, but I'm so glad that I went there, you know?
If we weren't doing a podcast or a video, I'd be sitting here with a notepad and a pencil because everything you're saying is golden. So, again, it sounds like you have a gift when it comes to when preaching and speaking about God's word. So that's also very comforting to know. But I wanted to go back a little bit in that journey in high school when you met that man from Young Life. What was it like when you first met him? How long did it take for you maybe not to really have like an aha moment, but to open your heart and realize that this is something that you really wanted to do? Was it day one or did it take some time?
Well, I think for anybody who's listening to this that has a relationship with Jesus, um, you need to understand that, like, if God lives in you, there's something different about you. And when we step out, and this is what Eagles believes, like, in the power of coaching. You take a coach that has God, like, literally taking up residence inside of them, and they step into a practice, and every kid in that practice, whether they know it or not, experiences Jesus through that coach. We're just intentional about taking men and women who have that relationship with Jesus and putting them in situations where other people can experience that. And Young Life does the same thing, just not in the realm of coaching necessarily. I have always coached with Young Life because it helped open up doors of friendship with high school guys. But I would say from the first second that I met him, I knew there was something different about the guy. I mean, obviously he was like balding and was hanging out in a high school, and that was weird. But you know, he like also at that same time there was this group of high school kids that were involved in Young Life that started asking me to hang out with them, beginning to think this was like a coordinated assault. But I tell, like, the story is like, I remember vividly the first time that I hung out with them. It was a Friday night in the fall of my junior year in high school, and these Young Life kids invited me to hang out with them. And I showed up at Jessica Story's house, and I remember all the names, all the places, all the Jessica Story's house, and I show up in the basement as Michael and Daniel and David and John and Ashley and Haley and Amanda, and a bunch of these people are actually married to each other now, which is super cool.
That's awesome.
But they were like hanging out, laughing. It was disorienting for me because my high school life was going to parties where, like there was more life than a party,
Mm-hmm.
and there were not the things that were at the party that were supposed to be life, um, and and they were friends with each other, and they, yeah, I mean, as the night went on, like the guys kind of went outside and the girls stayed inside and watched a movie or something. And like we had this real conversation, like me and these high school guys, I mean, my peers, and we ended up talking about God and about faith. And I kind of expressed where my doubts were, and they just listened and acted like I was really interesting. And Donnie, I remember getting in my 95 blue Ford Bronco that my dad had bought from the Utah Department of Agriculture on
Awesome.
um, I got it and cranked the two windows down, and then I had an electric window in the back, so all three windows down. Beautiful night. Took my CD player, which is something we used to have, Donnie. Uh, I think I either put Blink 182 or Dave Matthews Band in, and drove back home and had the thought to myself, if this is what it means to be a Christian, I'm very interested in that. Um, and and it was really this year-long slow aha of there's something to this that I really want.
That's awesome. The 95 Ford Bronco, though, that is like tying the bow on a present.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
awesome. My dad has actually gone out and found another one on eBay and bought it himself. I mean, like stick shift,
Right.
like so funny.
That's awesome. I actually got to listen in. Mary sent me the recording of your Zoom call with all of the coaches in the organization, and I got to listen through and hear your heart, which was amazing. And one thing you said that really stuck with me was our intimacy with Jesus exceeds our productivity with Jesus.
Hmm.
Can you speak more on that and when you really started to implement that into your own life?
Hmm. Yeah, well, I was talking yesterday with one of our coaches, um, and I guess I'll come back around to that. But um, you know, we can do a whole lot of things, and um, everything about our society reinforces that we are what we do. I think Batman said that. You know, like, uh, and as followers of Jesus, we have to not buy into that. We aren't what we do. We are who we're loved by, which is Jesus. And and I really believe that with Eagles, if all of our coaches can really believe that who they are with Jesus is the defining factor of their life, then we've won the battle. Um, you know, we in ministry, because Eagles is a ministry, we will have every opportunity to run as far and as fast as we possibly can. And we'll be celebrated along the way. And I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of celebrating that in other people. And nobody will ever look underneath the hood of the car to see how things are going. And we will find that our talent will take us to places that our character won't keep us. Um, and so that's why it's so deep, to make sure that we're excavating deeply to go wide. And so really my first thing, and if it's my only thing with Eagles, is that our intimacy with Jesus will go deeper than our productivity for Jesus. You know, one of my mentors said to me, Jesus is far more interested in what he's doing in you than what he's doing through you. Um, and so I want to build that. But you know, when I was talking with one of our coaches, Becca, yesterday, um, who's amazing. I mean, everybody I talked to is like, where are we getting all these amazing folks? Um, but but you know, what I wanted to share with her that, you know, I have to build a culture with Eagles that I'm accountable to, not one that is accountable to me, because I like I believe what I just said, but I don't always live it. And there's going to be times in the next few years where I'm going to tend towards productivity. But if we've built a really good team with Eagles, um, I want the team to call me out when I violate the culture that we built together. You know, how many great leaders do we need to see take a nosedive because they've just isolated themselves and because they've kind of allowed themselves to be put on this pedestal? I'm not interested in building something that's going to have me, you know, you asked about the title to start, executive director. Like, that's fun, but like that, I don't want to be separate from the team. I want to be a part of the team, and for us to go there together, because there's going to be a lot of days where I don't want to go to the places where I've said that we need to go, and I'm going to need a team to carry me, because I'm weak, you know, just like all of us.
I think you answered that better than I could have imagined. I love that it's a constant reminder of things that you may not want to do, and I think that it also goes back to something that I try and hold close to my heart, is that in order to be great, you have to be uncomfortable. You can't be both. You can't be comfortable and be great. You have to step outside of that. And I think that, especially in faith, in your faith journey, I think you hit it on the head. I mean,
Would you say that again? In order to be great, you what?
you okay? Here's the real quick. You can be great or you can be comfortable. You can't be both.
Hmm.
And I think that's one thing that I try and hold as close to my heart as possible. And I can tell that you do in a way too, which is awesome. That even though you may not want to go to certain places, whether it's literally, whether it's figuratively, you know, in your faith, it's necessary. And I think that is such an amazing reminder from everything you just said when it comes to holding each other accountable, which is something that's, you know, huge, especially in religion.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that quote. I've been thinking about that, you know, like, um, I think, and maybe it's just from like the commercials that we watch on television, which sort of reinforce that great, like greatness and comfort. Like, like if you're not comfortable, then you must be on the wrong path, you
Mm-hmm.
know? But like I've, you know, because I've hung out with high school guys for a long time, a lot of my analogies have not graduated beyond high school. But you know, like if you're playing one of these like alien killing video games, right? Like there's a name for those, right? Like first player. What are the, you would probably know better than me, Donnie.
Either like Call of Duty or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So if you're going through Call of Duty and you're killing zombies or something like that, if you're running through the board and you're not running into zombies, what does that mean? It means that you're going the wrong direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, like you, if zombies are not attacking you on Call of Duty, you're not going forward through the map. You're going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And like we don't have like that's what really jacks us up about these video games. You know, it's like, ah! You know, and the people listening on the podcast, that's not going to make sense.
If they see it visually, which we'll put out the visual, it'll be even better.
Yeah. No, but like we don't apply that same like that's what gets us jacked up in the game, but it's not what gets us jacked up um, in life. So
Mic drop. That's awesome. I love that analogy. I have to mention.
I feel like you're my hype man in this interview. Like, you can seriously fry me if you want to.
No, my gosh, there have been no friable moments, if that's even a word, from everything you've said. So I'm genuine. I believe that I'm genuine when it comes to being a hype man. I would not give you false hype. Just know that. I have to ask you in your bio, you've got a beautiful family and you've got 4 amazing kids. In simple, what's it like being a dad?
Uh, whew. Um, it is life deeper. Um, you know, you're not married, are you, Donnie?
I am not. No.
I think so. So any ladies listening to this, um, just know that there's this incredible voice and a man who asks great questions out there. His number is 555. Yeah, I don't like, in no way do I want to discount the stage of life that you're in because you are, you know, you are where God wants you right now. And your real life isn't waiting for some time in the future, you know? Like you're in it now. And this is full life right now, right? John 10:10, I've come that they might have life and have it to the full. So you're there. Uh, it's, but when you get married, you like, it's like this mirror gets put up against you and you get put through this grinder, you know, as iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another. Like that's that in marriage, but in like having kids, it just amplifies this thing where, uh, yeah, it's just life deeper. Like I didn't know that my heart was capable of loving in the way that it is. You know, I haven't like I experienced so much grace from my children. Like I never expected how often I would be apologizing to them. You know, and just saying, you know, like when we pray together at night, it's like regularly, it's like, Jesus, please cover over the ways that daddy messed up today. And my kids are just so graceful and just pour that on me. I learned so much about God from my kids. One of the reasons why I feel like I've had so many kids is because I love each one of them with such this weird fire. Like when we just had Keller, it was like I love this little person so much. Like my love is going to crush him eventually. I need more kids to spread this out on. Otherwise, it's not going to be safe. Like it's not going to be good. Um, and and so yeah, and I know that there are places and ways that God calls people. You know, like I want to travel the world. It'd be hard to do that with kids, but man, I just tell you, like I think it's when Harry met Sally. The quote is like, when you meet the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. Like that happens with kids too. You know, like this is my real life. So like when I go to the beach now and I see those families where there's like these giant loud families and stuff, like it's like I want to have that. You know, the 4 the four families and granddad's there like refereeing these games that he makes up on the beach. I'm like, man, my dude, like I want to do that. So I haven't had a kid yet that I regretted having, Donnie. So,
That's perfect.
but I do think that we're capped on it for.
That's amazing. That's amazing. To hear you talk about your kids in that way is refreshing. But another question for you about your kids. Kids tend to be very, very funny. I think one of the reasons is because they're so innocent and they're just naive to the world around them, but what they see is what they perceive. What's some of the funniest things? I know this can be a broad question. What's some of the funniest things your kids have said to you that just make you sit back and laugh and smile?
Um, well, all of my kids, well, Ryder is like almost 3 months old. So his sense of humor is more in just his looks, Um,
Right.
uh, Sometimes I think he looks like Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas the Train Engine. Um,
That's perfect.
but he like smiles. He has this goofy smile. But all of my kids are really funny. Um, Asher has a whole lot of physical humor and makes these faces. He likes to wink and like go like this especially at like older girls. He goes double eyebrow raise. It's like, dude, come on. I think one of our ladies on staff with YoungLife taught him that. But Keller is really intelligent uh, and his ability to talk to people, like he makes me laugh because he like comes in sometimes with these like adult phrases. I'm like, you're 8, but he's just such a listener and a learner, and he puts that out. And my daughter she's probably the funniest of all of them. Like she has this comedic timing that's unbelievable. Um, and so she's really, really funny. Um, she's really funny. The other night, she's 3 years old. The other night she was brushing her teeth and sang into the mirror over and over again, uh, "Get out of my way, I'm John Cena." It's like,
Oh man, I think we should do that. Hype ourselves up a little bit.
where do you think she learned it, man? Just kidding. But literally, I put it on Instagram. It was really funny.
That's awesome. I need to go check that out. You mentioned your wife as well. How did you all meet? Was it through ministry? Was it just by chance? Could you take me through that story?
Yes. Oh man. Um, we both came on Young Life staff at the same time, interviewed the same day, and the first time I met her, I didn't talk to her because I thought we were interviewing for the same job, and she was the competition, so I didn't talk to her.
Fair.
Turned out we were interviewing for different jobs, but I mean, um, we went into our first Young Life regional staff meeting in Southwest Virginia, uh, and man, she was sitting on the other side of the room, and and it was literally like every beam of light that came through the window was just attracted to her. And so I'm like staring, uh, and just and in this time we're talking about ministry, we're talking about Jesus, we're talking about reaching kids for him, and she would raise her hand and chime in. And so like here's this, I'm looking at this beautiful woman and thinking, gosh, she's amazing. And then she's talking about these things that like I'm really passionate about, and she's passionate about them. I'm like, okay, this is someone that I could definitely spend the rest of my life with. I definitely knew that she was not interested in me, because I bought all my clothes from Goodwill at that point, which is now cool again. But at that point it was, and I didn't really cut my hair at all. This is, so I used to look like this.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Totally different.
so that's my senior plaque from college. But anyway, so she was not going to be interested in me, but I had feelings for her for 6 months and really tried hard not to let on, because yeah, I needed to kind of prove it to myself that I could be a good man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, over time, uh, God did something in her heart. Miracles happen every day, Donnie, and she started to have feelings for me too. So uh, yeah, but what I tell folks is that you need to find your God, find your life, and then you find your wife. I think that far too often people are looking for people to complete them, in
Hmm.
a relationship. And the truth is that, like, if you put that amount of pressure on anybody, it's going to crush them. Like, well, Jesus is the only one
True.
that can complete you. So I say, find God, like find your God, ask him what he wants you to do, and then start running in that direction. And as you're running in that direction, look to your left and your right, and chances are that that the person that's going to run alongside of you for all of life is already running that direction. And that's what I found with Laura. Um, yeah. So
That's awesome.
a
That's
little free
awesome.
relational advice for you. I'm just gonna.
Just slide it in. I know you said I'm your hype man, but Cliff, really, you're blowing it out of the water, man. No doubt. No
I've done
doubt.
a video interview before, so hopefully.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. All right, some quick hitters for you to close things out before we wrap
I
up.
think now, here we go.
What is your favorite food to cook?
Salmon.
Okay, good. Anything on the salmon? Will you give away your special ingredients, or are you going to keep it
Yeah,
hush?
well, here's the secret: is that salmon basically cooks itself. But I use Cajun seasoning, olive oil, and butter, and then I put it on the grill, and it happens, baby.
Good
So
answer. Good
yeah,
answer. I like that.
I love.
Um,
I really love to cook.
okay, well, we're going to stay on the cooking side then. What's the most gourmet dish you can whip up?
Um, hmm. Uh, there's a dish called pork Diane that I
Hmm.
make that involves like slicing a pork tenderloin and then putting it out, and you take a hammer and you beat it, and so like you really tenderize it,
Hmm.
cover both sides with lemon pepper, and then you cook it in Worcestershire sauce, and and lemon and Dijon mustard,
Hmm.
and finish it with like spring onions and stuff, and bring it out. Honestly, anything you can do with vegetables and fresh herbs, also, like, vegetables don't get nearly the play that they deserve, because it is harder to do like really exotic things with vegetables, in my opinion. So
Hmm.
I'm trying to do better with that. I've recently started making like Greek chicken and my own tzatziki sauce, but
You're kidding.
yeah, like so that's pretty cool. And you make that with fresh herbs, like I cut them out of my garden, and it's something, man. It's nice.
It's
So
so funny you say that because my family is half Greek. My mom is 100% Greek, and
yes,
tzatziki sauce that is like heaven on earth. So I
thank
am
you
so happy.
for not pronouncing it correctly.
No, you honestly, there's been a lot where you sit there and scratch your head, but your pronunciation was perfect, no doubt. Okay, this is a question. I'm not sure if you saw our last IG live or our talk with Jen Ludeman, but this is a question that Mary Tui asked, and I want to keep it going for our episodes. So, would you rather fight off one giant horse or 100 mini horses? Imagine it any way you can,
No,
and
I mean,
go.
I don't even need to think about that. It's one giant horse.
One giant horse. How would you go about attacking that giant horse? I've got to know.
Um, Bicycle, kick it in the face.
That's a good plan. I can't see why not. that'd be that'd be awesome. I'm glad you have a very definite answer because our last two guests, it's been, what's the advantages, what's the pros and cons. But you seem very set in your ways. Have you been asked this question before?
Yeah, as a disclaimer, I would never want to kick a horse in the face at all, or any animal for that matter. So everyone who's listening, please know it was a giant horse and it was attacking me.
You have to do what you have to do. You can't pick and choose. Okay, dream car. I know 95 Bronco might be up there, but is there any other cars?
I would love I would love a Toyota Tundra.
Mm.
I like trucks, and you know, and it doesn't have to be like totally souped up or anything like that, you know. But yeah, just kind of like a larger truck with like the alloy wheels and yeah.
I like that answer. Okay, three people, gone or still present that you could have dinner with, celebrity, anyone. Three people to have dinner with.
Uh, um, I mean Jesus, obviously, but
You're the third person out of three guests, so right answer.
we'll just disclaimer that.
Right.
Uh, uh, if I'll choose one person from the Bible, I'm going to say John, um, because he seemed like, yeah. So John,
Okay.
uh, Martin Luther King Jr., I think, um, and probably some, like, I'm really into history. Like, obviously, one of the early presidents would be cool, but uh, I think it'd be really neat to meet with one of these kings from England that like had to consolidate power, you know, back when
Hmm.
there was a bunch of different kingdoms, you know. So whether that's like, um, you know, King like Henry, you know, from the Shakespeare play, or Alfred the Great, or his son Edward the Elder, you know.
I like that. Okay, so Jesus, John, MLK Jr., and a king from England.
Yeah, an
That
English
would
king.
be a very, very nervous dinner. You could not mess up.
Oh yeah, well,
If you made pork Diane, I'm pretty sure they would be happy. So
Jesus was kosher, so he wouldn't have eaten that.
that's true. You're right. Okay. Would you rather be able to talk to land animals, animals that fly, or animals that live underwater?
Animals that live underwater kind of freak me out. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Like, I love the ocean, I love the lake, but like, I get kind of freaked out thinking about what's 50 feet below me, you know.
That's
Um,
fair.
so that kind of wigs me out a little bit. So I don't need to talk to any sea animals. Dolphins are cool. Um, um, yeah, in in books like Lord of the Rings, the birds are always kind of spies for bad guys, so that kind of has a negative stigma. But I love Narnia, and so animals that can talk, like that would be really cool. So
Okay.
also, if a dog could talk. There are some things that we need to talk about. So
I thought about it one time. I asked this question when I go to Wingate University, and we were doing a this or that type questionnaire with the athletes on campus. And I asked one person, I want to say it was either fly or talk to animals. And she made a good point, especially about a dog. She was like, I'd rather fly because don't we already talk to animals? If you think about it,
yeah,
she got
yeah.
me there. I felt very, very dumb when she told me that. So pretty much, would you rather do this? She answered, and I said, thanks for exposing me. So, um, one question that I think can tie everything together as best as possible that I've asked our last two guests: if someone approached you and asked you what the Charlotte Eagles were about and what they meant to you, your answer would be what?
I'd say that's going to be hard for me to answer because I haven't started with the Eagles yet. Um,
Based on right, that's true. Based on the knowledge you know now, if that makes it any easier.
Well, what I would say that the Charlotte Eagles is, obviously you can read the website and find the definition, but I believe that the Charlotte Eagles is a underground, disciple-producing, world-changing organization, cleverly disguised as a soccer ministry.
Boom. Again, out of the park, home run. Perfect answer.
Yeah. So
Perfect answer.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Cliff, that is all I have for you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure meeting you, pleasure talking to you. You made me laugh so many times. You hit me with so many amazing quotes and things that I would love to implement in my life. So, on behalf of the Eagles and Birds and Boots and myself, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Birds and Boots. Hey, and to anybody Eagles Nation who is listening to this, I am so excited to join you, and keep chasing the dream. So
Awesome. Couldn't have
anyway.
said it better. That's Cliff Wright. I'm Donnie Sherrill. Thank you all for joining us for Birds and Boots episode 2. We'll see you all next time.